Three, two, one.
You ready?
Listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. I am so excited right now because I've got an amazing director here. You know him from About a Boy, In Good Company, Fatherhood, which I think is Kevin Hart's best dramatic role. He has written and directed the film that we're talking about today, Moving On. I'm always afraid I'm going to get your last name wrong. It's Paul. It's
Weitz.
It is Weitz.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks so
Yes.
much, Josh. Thanks.
Yeah, Paul Weitz. Thank you so much for being on. First off, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. You know, when I got married, my brother, as part of his best man speech, said to my wife, "Congratulations! Now you have a last name that no one will ever pronounce correctly." So thanks for asking.
Yeah, I've got Hunter, so most of the time people get that right. But I just want to jump in real quick here, just to talk about the movie. Before I do that, I want to talk to you because I'm a fan of it. I want to talk to you about Mozart in the Jungle, because I think that's so unique to really your filmography. You know, from American Pie to Ants to About a Boy. It's all over the place in such a positive way because I always am intrigued by what directions you're going to take with your stuff. Kind of talk to me about how Mozart in the Jungle came about and like what it was about that show and those characters that you went, I want to go ahead and do this for 4 really great seasons. So
Thanks. Yeah, and Malcolm McDowell actually was one of the stars of it, playing a conductor who's been sort of put out to pasture by this superstar conductor played by Gallagher Sir Burnell. I mean, I love that world of classical musicians, not because it's like an elevated world, but because it's actually like athletes. Like
yeah,
they have to like practice every day. If they get an injury, they're in trouble. And there is a connection here with Moving On too, because Lily's character is a cellist who, at her age, can no longer really play her instrument, and is like she's freaking out about it. Mozart in the Jungle was very much about. It was stuff I couldn't talk about anywhere else. But I'd grown up with my mom's best friend growing up was a woman named Orrin O'Brien, who was the first woman hired on a permanent basis for the New York Philharmonic.
wow.
And she would always tell me stuff about, oh, these people in the orchestra are sitting next to each other and they hate each other. They can't stand each other, but playing next to each other for 10 years. I just thought it was a hoot. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I absolutely adored the show. I thought you did great with it. So to get into Moving On, I was really curious about this movie because when I saw Grandma, I remember watching it and going, "That's a really big swing for you to take,
Yeah.
take abortion, turn it into a road dramedy,"
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there the whole time watching it and going, "This could go off the road very easily because you obviously want to keep the subject serious as far as what's going on." But make that balance between, the comedy and the drama. And here, I think you're taking an even bigger swing. And so I'm watching the whole time, kind of biting my lip, like, okay, don't lose the thread. And I think you do a really great job of not doing that. I don't want to get into spoilers, but when people watch it, they'll get it. As far as that subject matter, like, how did this film kind of come about as far as tackling the subject itself that you're tackling?
Oh, thanks. Well, honestly, the first idea was a comedic idea of, I had this image of a funeral where there's a widower and people are coming up and saying, "I'm so sorry for your loss. She's a wonderful woman. Come over for dinner. We love you." And then this woman comes up and says, "Well, now that she's gone, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you this weekend." And then she moves on, and the next person comes up, and this guy's in shock, and the next person's like, "Oh, we're so sorry for your loss." So I had that idea. And then I was like, okay. Then it was like, I was talking to Lily and she brought up doing a movie with her and Jane. And I was like, oh, the woman's Jane Fonda. And then I was like, why does Jane want to kill him? And that's where sort of the
Okay.
sort of explosive aspect of this comes in. And I mean, I think that the thing is, we think of things as being topical as if like this just happened, like, abortion just became an issue. Well,
Yeah.
there's so, but the thing is that like these are things that happen that affect people's lives and been affecting people's lives for decades or centuries.
Yes.
And so when you have somebody who's in their 80s, who's who's been wronged or a crime has been committed to them, and they're still dealing with it. A, I think it's really real, and B, it's something that I don't see that much, And the question
Yeah.
is, like, when you've had something that's really derailed your life, can you still, at a late age, find love? Can you rekindle a friendship? Can you have fun? Because yeah, she's gonna kill this guy, and it's really dark. There's really like deep reason why, but also she's having fun with her friend, figuring out how to do it. And as you talk about taking a big swing, earlier I was thinking like growing up, I was a Mets fan, and there was a guy named Dave Kingman. I mean, Darryl Strawberry was similar, but like Dave Kingman, he'd either hit a home run or strike out. And I was like, oh my God, am I Dave Kingman? Like, like, am I in trouble here? Um, but yeah, I'm definitely swinging for it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, the movie in particular though, there's a scene later on where Malcolm McDowell just kind of goes off the hinges in a way that I was like, oh my God, this is so terrible. But you get these spikes though, I think, of the drama where it really does hit in a way that's uncomfortable given the situation. It should be uncomfortable. How did you try to find that balance as far as kind of getting everyone's point of view? Because obviously McDowell, his character has his own stuff going on, but you want to go ahead and obviously make sure that the women are showcased as well. But I think you did do a good job of getting his terrible perspective for what
Yeah.
occurs and then there. So how did you kind of balance all that?
Yeah. I mean, nobody thinks they're the villain of their movie. Everybody thinks they're
True.
the um and I knew Malcolm would do that, because like I knew he wouldn't be commenting on the character. And to me, that's it's kind of scary that like people who otherwise seem like good people can occasionally in their lives do something really terrible. And for me, it's like uh, you know, sometimes I'm asked like, how do you get the balance in a film? And I'm just now at this late date starting to admit to myself that I don't know that I can get the balance, and I'm not
Mm,
sure that I care. Like basically,
okay.
the real way to get the balance is to cut stuff. You know, don't have the movie be about what it's about. And there's, sometimes people will say to you, like financiers, like, "Oh, does it have to be about this?" Um,
Yeah.
but seeing it I've now gone to see it in a theater a few times, and it works flat out like a comedy. But people aren't laughing at the parts where they're not supposed to laugh. But there's laughs in it that are the audience reaction is as big as like something from American Pie, which is the first film that I made. But like the end of the movie, without spoiling it, is like it's the twist.
Yeah. The
That's a
end
big,
got me. The
big
end got
audience
me
reaction.
in the end got me in the best way. I was like, wow, okay. I was like, I really like that.
Cool.
Um, real quick, 'cause I know we're running a little short on time. You have I don't want to call it a love scene, but kinda in this movie, and
Yeah.
you really don't like. First off, I was really happy that was in here because you don't see scenes like that for with older actors or actresses, and I think that's so weirdly taboo. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's really cool that this is in here. Secondly, you get Richard Roundtree to be in here, and I'm such a huge fan of him. So how did that come about as far as getting him in the movie, and like why was he like the perfect choice? Because I think he's perfect in the movie.
Um, Thank you so much. Well, I went and looked at, I looked at his recent stuff. I mean, he has such a lovely vibe to him. And like, I needed somebody who was like, who projected maturity and kindness. And weirdly, like Shaft is an action hero, but I think maybe the reason that it was so great was that Richard is like really graceful.
Yes.
And like it's not like nowadays where it's like some roided up dude like smashing people. It's like something you'd like to spend some time with. Um,
Yeah.
um, and then I was also just like, okay, who has Jane not played opposite? Who would have been really
Fair.
great to see them in a movie in the '70s, but that didn't happen. So let's see them now. And so yeah, and uh, he really wanted to work with Jane and vice versa. And there's a little scene in there where she takes his hand, and that's just because like in a rehearsal I had with him, Jane reached over to Richard's hand and said, "Look at his, he has beautiful hands." And so I just put that in the movie, and it was a scene where I was
Oh,
initially trying to use a lot of words to describe something, like she's just trying to say that she loved him, and instead, but to do that, I just have her take his hand in the movie. Um, yeah, yeah. I almost want to, I almost want to like video you saying how much you like Richard in the movie and then send it to Richard.
feel free to, because
I, and
I'm
I,
such a fan of his, in
all right,
that
here goes. Now I'm really, okay. What did you think of Richard in the movie?
Richard Roundtree, sir, you were absolutely amazing and brilliant in the movie. I thought you were a great love interest in the way you and Fonda played off each other. I thought was excellent. One of my favorite things about the film.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Boom, there we go.
Thanks
um,
for doing that.
last question I'll throw out to you here, because this is heavy subject matter you're dealing with, and I'm weirdly excited for the audience to figure out what we're talking about, because once that shoe drops, it's a oh my god! Like, it was one of those things where I had to actually pause for a second and go, okay, this makes a lot more sense now as far as why we're on this journey. Um, with grandma, with stuff like this, with even fatherhood, talking about how parenting is hard. Like, when you're taking on these subjects, I guess my final thing is, where what are you wanting your audience to take away from it? Are you wanting them to take away that's complicated? Are you wanting them to take away, like, what is kind of the message that, because I think there is one that could kind of wrap up all three films.
Yeah. I think that in a way, it's that this is a part of life, and humor and love and all the things that make us human don't stop because there's been something traumatic that happens, or because there's a really difficult decision to be made. And there's a tendency to dehumanize things that we consider issues, as opposed to be like, this is people's lives, and one should be able to talk about it, because if not, it gets relegated to some place where there can't be any healing. That's
Hmm.
my perspective.
Wow, I love that. And I think that applies beautifully to all three films. And I cannot wait for people to see Moving On, which comes out this week.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, people, you can go check this out in theaters. Paul, if you wouldn't mind, as we get out of here, could you please tell people, where they can see the movie, what you have coming up, you on social media, all that fun stuff?
Thank you. I'm not on social media because I'm too chicken. Um, um, and I'm not sure. So it's playing across the country, and I'm not sure exactly where in Las Vegas is. You're in Las Vegas, right? Um,
I'm actually in Nevada,
oh, in
actually.
Nevada. I'm so sorry. So you probably have to look up Fandango or something, or Google it where it's playing near you. But I hope you see the movie, and I hope you have a really good time with it. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul, for making the time. I hope this does well, and you take care of yourself.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Josh.
All right, take care.